Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 195 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. And James, I think the last time we had a guest, I started it out like this too. We're not alone tonight.
Yeah, I know. We'll fumble our way to it. We'll get the guest introduced eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Should we do like we normally do and just bumble about the race and stuff and not mention the winner and introduce the guest about halfway through?
That sounds good to me, man. Yeah, let's make it work.
Well, go ahead. You brought him on. Introduce our guest this week.
Our special guest this week is Derek Winter, host of Life in the Fans Lane podcast. How you doing, Derek?
Good, man. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. We started our own podcast just a little bit ago, and we're having a good time with it. And James, I think actually to your credit, you invited me on this podcast before we even started that,
right? Yeah.
And then we became a competitor. So
that's
sorry.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was eventually going to come up tonight. It was like, we got spurned at some point. It's fine. Right. We can all be friends. There's plenty of podcast space out there. So
we know where we rank. I'm sure you've passed us already. So
well, hey, you see the analytics. I see the analytics. I totally get it.
Let's just not compare those, okay? Let's keep it. We'll be friends. We'll keep it clean. No comparing.
I will say we did in a way have Jimmy Johnson on our podcast at one time. So I mean, we got
roundabout way. Yeah, roundabout way.
Yeah.
You already went to the top of the leaderboard then.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, sure, it was a media scrum, but we had him on.
Well, we took credit for it at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Derek, tell us a little bit about your podcast and how you guys got started and what made you decide to do it.
Yeah. So our podcast is more of the idea to introduce some casual race fans to the sport. Believe it or not, I'm the hardcore fan in the relationship between my co-host Clark and I. Clark actually came to me with the idea and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing a podcast where we can combine the viewpoints of a casual race fan to a hardcore race fan and kind of outstretch our audience and see if we can get that listenership to tune in." Right. And I thought it was a great idea. I never really envisioned myself hosting a podcast. I'm guessing you guys are probably the same way, right?
Right.
Just kind of fall into it and you're like, who would want to hear me talk? But here we are. We are 15 episodes in and we're having a lot of fun with it. It's good to catch up, good to talk about the race each week. And we're really having a good time with it. So that's essentially what we do. We share the viewpoint of a casual fan versus a hardcore fan and discuss different topics week to week.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea that you guys had. You know, that's one of the cool things about the podcasting space, I think, is, Eric and I, we have our thing that we do. It works well for us. But there's so many different things and so many different angles that you can take. And what you guys are doing is something totally different that I haven't seen in the NASCAR podcast space, which is, there's a lot of room out there. I mean, if you want to listen to Dale Jr. on the Dale Jr. download, you can, but there's also people like us who I feel like, I don't know. I mean, we've got, I don't want to overspeak for Eric, but I feel like we've got pretty decent listenership now. Yeah. We've been doing this obviously for almost 200 episodes. And, the more you keep going, the more of a catalog that you have, and you get better at it as you go along. And I just think it's awesome that you guys came in with a fresh idea and are, exploring that space.
Yeah. Thank you. If you listen to our podcast, Clark and I give each other a lot of hell, but I think this might be his first good idea ever. So we will give him credit, and he's not here to defend himself. So that is completely fine too. But no, we're having a good time with it. And, thank you. Appreciate that. Like I said, most of the credit goes to him.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, and one of the other things I wanted to add about Derek too is, so Derek and I met each other through Michigan International Speedway fan advisory board. We worked the booth together at the Fan Experience. I don't know, man, that was a long time ago now, Derek. I can't even believe
crazy.
It. But
probably at least 5 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's at least 5 or 6, I think. Mm-hmm. So, but it's just one of those things like you and I have, Eric. You just meet people and all of a sudden you just start talking racing. And I think that's something that NASCAR fans I don't know, that kind of is what brings us together. It's that community. And Derek and I got to talking, and every year we'd kind of get back together and talk some more. And But yeah, Derek's got like from following you on Twitter, Derek, I know you and I have kept in touch pretty much that way. But you've had a lot of cool fan experiences that I think you've crossed some items off your bucket list that I think Eric and I would also like to cross off ours as well.
Yeah, as a fan of the sport, and I don't know about you guys. I've been a fan since 2003. Attended my first race in 2004. Like you mentioned, James, you get to know people in the sport, whether they're actual drivers or media members, team owners, spotters. You get to know these people just from seeing them on TV, listening to them, and you're able to talk with them about racing, about what they do. And it's really a deep connection. Even if you are looking at maybe some lower series of racing, if you're into racing, people are going to know that you're legitimately into racing if you start having a conversation with them. So
Yep.
Yeah, I got some cool experiences for sure, and feel fortunate. But I think that's something to be said about the sport of racing, right? About how down to earth most of the people are that you meet in the sport, and you have these opportunities to do some really cool things. So I did want to mention, you had asked me about my podcast, or about our podcast, and again, our goal is to bring new fans into the sport, and I know you guys have that goal as well, is to introduce people to the sport and show them why we love it, right? And I want to say that we have 3 or 4 loyal listeners that never considered watching a race until I'm their salesman, or I work directly with them at work. They're watching races, they're talking about going to races now, and I love to hear that. I know that's what you guys set out to do too, and nothing makes me more excited than that when we're talking about a podcast or the sport.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
No, that's great. I mean, I had a similar experience recently. My brother-in-law Mike, and now his wife Emily, they are they've known I've been a NASCAR fan. I've known them for years now, but they started getting into it, and Mike joined our fantasy league that we have on the podcast, and he listens every week, and now they're like avid fans, and that's just a cool, exciting thing. That's probably part of the reason I ended up on the fan advisory board at Michigan in the first place, is bringing new people to the track, and that's been a lot of fun for sure. Yep,
for sure.
Cool. So James mentioned bucket list items, Derek, and I guess I'm not aware of them. Give me maybe your top 2. What's the coolest things you've been able to do in the NASCAR universe?
So I'll give you the first one, obtaining a hot pass. I think that's on every NASCAR fan's list, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great day when I had my first one.
Yeah, you go in there, like, I think I was there when the garage opened and didn't leave until it closed, right?
Yep.
Both days. So at the time I was actually working in the beer industry, and one of our suppliers had an incentive that was to get a hot pass, and also to sit on the pit box for Ty Dillon. It was sponsored by Twisted Tea at the time.
Nice.
And unfortunately, that was the first race I've attended at MIS that was completely rained out. So we didn't get to sit on the pit box, we didn't get to sit on the pit box for the race. But when they brought the cars down for the red flag, Ty Dillon and his wife actually were sitting up next to us on the pit box. That was a really cool deal. But I didn't even care that the race weekend was rained out, or Sunday was rained out. I got to meet Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, you name it, I met him. Bill Elliott happened to be in the garage that weekend, so that was really cool. So that was more of a like an incentive based thing that I knew that was going to happen. But I know James is a fan of Eldora Speedway, and I'm guessing you are too, Eric. With if you're a fan of dirt and racing, you know Eldora.
Well, Eldora is one of the reasons this podcast got started, Derek. Is Eric and I would drive to Eldora, and this is what we would do. We would get on and we would just talk all the way down. So
6 hours of talking, we decided maybe we should start recording.
we could probably do something here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and James, you know Logan Waddle. I mean,
I know Logan. Yep.
Clark had originally pitched the idea that Logan and I, he and Logan and I do the podcast. Logan doesn't really have the time, but Logan and I were the same thing, right? Like, we would drive down the road, we'd be chatting on the phone. We could cover a 3 to 4 hour period talking about racing if we wanted to. And I think that speaks to what we did on the fan advisory board, right? Where we have race fans that care about the sport and want to better the sport. So we all had the same goal in mind and all enjoyed the same thing. But anyways, I'm getting a little off track with Eldora Speedway. It was the first truck race that they had there back in 2013. And just this crazy set of circumstances led to us getting onto the track after the race, getting down in the pits. We ran into like the son of Johnny Morris, who owns Bass Pro Shops. And these guys were just partying it up and having a good time. And we thought, okay, cool. We got to meet you. We're in the pits, done deal. We turned to walk away and they're like, where are you guys going? And they actually invited us to the after party with Austin Dillon and his crew. Richard Childress was there. He won the race. Yeah. Richard Childress was there. Mike Dillon was there. We drove back that night. We had to be to work in the morning, and we left Eldora at like 2 or 3 a.m. Drove through the night, got to work, but it was worth it. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
So it was a really cool experience. So Eric, I think those would be my top 2 bucket list items in terms of what I've done.
Nice. Cool. Eldora was my first race as a media member. That was the first one I got to do as a media member. So
awesome.
Pretty cool. That was the year that Matt Crafton won it. So
cool. The big E, right?
Yeah. Yep. The other question I had for you is, who do you pull for? Do you have one driver that you pull for more than others?
I know the answer to this one, but let's see.
I pull for Cody Ware. No, I'm kidding. I'm a Chase Elliott fan.
Nice.
Yep. So you can go ahead and compare me to a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan, and
that was James. I don't do that stuff. James does.
That's my role on the show is to make sure that I play the heel every once in a while. So I told everybody last year when Chase won the championship that finally Dale Jr. fans could celebrate a Cup championship. So it was a big moment for the sport. I mean,
agreed.
Yeah. So there you go.
Agreed.
Yep. All right. Let's get into the discussion. We've got some racing to talk about. This past weekend, we were at Dover International Raceway. Or Dover International Speedway, I think is the technical name of the track.
We just throw it out there. Yeah.
It's whatever. It's Dover Downs, guys. That's what it used to be.
That's right. Dover Downs.
Cup Series had the Dryden 400 this weekend. And what can you say about the Hendrick organization? First 4 drivers in the race, and probably the most unlikely of all of them wins it.
I would say so. But watching that race play out, I thought, again, here we go. Kyle Larson's going to either win this thing going away or find a way to lose it. And I don't know if he's so much found a way to lose it this week, but Alex Bowman just kind of came on. That pit stop at the end was incredible. Got him out front.
Fastest pit stop of the year. Am I right?
Yeah, yes. You're right. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, that I don't know about you guys, but that 1 through 4 finish was, I mean, there was no doubt. Like Kevin Harvick tried to get there, Joey tried to get there, but at the end of the day, those Hendrick cars were dialed in.
Yeah, that was the thing, is they were 1 through 4 a good chunk of the day. I mean, it was not just a fluke at the end. It was like, I kind of thought that somebody would end up in the middle there at the end just because, but I mean, like you said, they ran like that the whole day.
Yeah, it's not often you see it that way either. Like, sometimes with these teams,
you see it that way. Really.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you never see it that way, because even if you have 2 cars that run a race that well out of a 4-car team, it's not very often that you see all 4 complete a race and with strategy and everything else that goes into it. It's just the odds are always against them. Yeah. So to see them come through was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think you have to compare that to respecting the delicacy of a perfect game or a no-hitter when you're watching baseball.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at it as it stunk up the show, but I actually enjoyed it. I think it was Denny Hamlin or whoever was approaching William Byron for 4th place. I'm like, man, I really hope they don't pass William Byron, because you don't get to see something like that very often, as they talked about, first time since 2005 and just the 4th time in history. So really impressive for Hendrick Motorsports for sure.
I think the only go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, go ahead. Go ahead. You go first.
The only part that disappointed me about the whole situation was that now we've got 2 weeks in a row that we've had dominating performances. And of course, the driver who dominated this weekend wasn't the one who ended up winning, but the team that dominated did, obviously.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's a little bit of a bummer to have those 2 in a row, especially when we had pretty high hopes with the 750 package running both these tracks. Dover's just Dover. Since it's been concrete, it's put on these types of shows, and it is what it is. And I mean, it wasn't a bad show. There was great racing. It just wasn't for the lead because Larson was running away with it.
Yeah.
But Bowman managed to get by him. And like you said, that last pit stop and led 98 laps in the day. So it's not like he just, got the lead at the end of the race and got the win. He was right there as well. And like we said, they were running top 4 all day, just about.
Yep, yeah, all day. And, Bowman, to speak on Bowman for a little bit, Eric, I think you and I on this podcast before, we weren't so sure early on about the Alex Bowman signing, but Dale Jr. believed in him. And I think I know for me, that's where I screwed up, because Dale Jr. actually does have an eye for talent.
Yeah.
And can get guys into seats. I mean, look at Barry in the Xfinity series right now. He knows who can drive, and Dale pushed hard to get Bowman into Hendrick Motorsports, and the guy's done nothing. I mean, he's driving himself right into a contract extension. There's not going to be an argument here.
He's got 2 race wins already. I mean, it's guaranteed, right? I mean,
he's guaranteed playoff driver for sure now. And he's the only other guy with multiple wins besides Truex at this point in the season. But Richmond, that was a strategy play. He stole that one. But if you can win races multiple ways, and Hendrick Motorsports with this 750 package, man, they're going to be dangerous,
Now, James, I do want to mention, you said that he's an absolute lock for the playoffs. I was looking at the points last night. Believe it or not, Alex Bowman actually sits 13th in points still, even after 2 wins. Now I'll be honest, I thought my understanding of it was the wins go to the top of the board.
I believe playoff points consider, but wins lock you in. So
right,
it would take everybody else getting 2 wins to basically put him out at this point. So
right.
So so I think he's pretty good, unless he falls out of the top 30, which I mean, I guess that's another situation.
And there's a wonderful example of NASCAR making a confusing point system.
Right. Even 3 hardcore fans don't really know exactly how to explain.
Yeah, you had me thinking for a second. It's like, wait a minute. He's locked in, right?
Dang it, Derek, you come in here and challenge me, man. I'm telling you, don't do that.
It's like keep you on your toes.
Right, absolutely.
So Kyle Larson dominates this thing, ends up finishing second. Still a win. I mean, obviously he wanted the trophy, but still a win for him, right? I mean,
yeah, this wasn't what happened last week, where that one's, I don't know. I felt like he had a shot last week and was really close at Darlington. This one, he seemed like he was more disappointed last week. Am I wrong, Derek? Did you see what he had to say after the race?
Yeah, he seemed pretty optimistic. Even after leading 264 laps, I think, this weekend. Yeah. And I would agree. He seemed more disappointed last weekend than he did this weekend.
I think it's because he knows, he's got Hendrick Motorsports is clicking on all cylinders, I feel like, at this point. I mean, Chase Elliott being the only guy who hasn't gotten a win yet. But I mean, we're heading to Dakota. We'll talk about that later.
Chase Elliott, not only that, but Chase Elliott on a track that he's really good at didn't lead a lap all day either.
Didn't lead a lap, but
top 4.
But when your teammates are elevated and you're, Chase, we got to remember too, Chase made a deep playoff run, obviously, last year. So this year, maybe there's a little bit of a lag there, but a little bit off compared to your teammates when the whole organization's running that way. And you bring in a guy like Larson, who has just been on fire. Obviously the whole team's in the right direction. I think they're all probably feeling pretty good, and winning a race, I mean, that's a nice notch in the stat sheet, but to do what Larson's doing, I think he's got to be feeling comfortable.
Real quick, in terms of Chase Elliott, we touched on this last night, that team has not seemed to be on the same page as they were last year since failing inspection at Phoenix earlier this year.
Yeah.
He goes and dominates Phoenix last year. And then, we talked a lot this week about the innovation or cheating, however you want to look at it. I prefer to look at it as innovation, but yes. You hear of teams maybe hearing something in the garage of, hey, did you see what that 9 car is doing? And the officials start to look at that 9 car. And what do you know? It pops up in the second race of the year at Phoenix. They fail inspection. They change whatever it was. And in my opinion, that team has not been the same since failing inspection in Phoenix. They've been good. They've been good, but not to where they normally have been.
Yep. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. I agree. Let's see, 267th win for Hendrick Motorsports. One behind Petty Enterprises for most all time, which is just crazy. Of course, 200 of those wins for Petty Enterprises was Richard Petty alone.
King, yes.
We noted that Rick Hendrick said that they are working on an extension with Alex Bowman. Essentially said it's a done deal. It just hasn't been signed yet. I don't think that's a surprise. First of all, where else is Bowman going to go? There's not a better option than Hendrick. And right. Like I said, you win 2 races in a season when only one other driver's won multiple races. You know that they're going to be coming at you with a contract extension unless somebody really wants to get Brad Keselowski. But maybe we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about that too, yeah.
We may know where he's going at this point if we believe him utter.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys, though, real quick. So I know this is the last year of the current gen car, and we're looking ahead to next year, and things are going to, that next gen car coming, that's going to shake everything up a little bit. But, what Chevy and what Hendrick has done, especially with RCR and combining, the engine program, things like that, you're seeing Hendrick, they've launched into, they've launched into this next era that they're in right now. They've got this young talent, up and comers, great drivers, but now the performance is back. Hendrick was down for 2 or 3 years. Now the performance is back.
They got rid of that dead weight Jimmy Johnson.
Sent him to the retirement home.
Exactly. Yeah, he's gone.
Now he's finishing 20th in the IndyCar series.
Right. But I was thinking about this though after looking at the results of this race, and yeah, it's great that Hendrick, with all the resources in the world, they look like world beaters, but they're also towing behind them. Tyler Reddick, you're seeing some gains there. And Austin Dillon's been running pretty well this season. He's made some gains, I believe. But also like Trackhouse is a part of that RCR house, and Trackhouse has been surprising us every week. So I think
they've been unreal.
It's been great. Yeah. So what Hendrick's done for the manufacturer of Chevrolet as a whole, I think has been a nice, I don't know, it's nice resurgence to see some of that being mixed up a little bit more, to bring them back.
I've become a Ford guy because we own Fords in my family now, but I'm still a Chevy guy at heart, and to see Chevy struggle the way it has in the past couple of years, it's nice to see the resurgence for sure.
I had actually liked you up until this point, and we are about 15 minutes in. So, guys, it was great. It was great. While I've been here,
Peace out. Anything but Toyota, right? Isn't that what we're doing here?
Yes. Yeah. Quick aside, speaking of manufacturers, James, I know you and I have talked a little bit about iRacing. Somebody posted a trading paints scheme of a Tesla on there the other day, which it was really cool. So
that's your worst nightmare, isn't it, James?
That's my worst nightmare. Yes.
That and a Paul Menard exclusive podcast we learned.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you keep hinting at things that are coming that are just looming over me at this point. Yes.
James has it noted here in the notes. 25 career second place finishes for Kyle Larson. That's crazy.
Ouch.
A lot. That's a lot.
It just shows you what the win total could be for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a sneak peek of his talent and also his shortcomings, I think. But with Hendrick now, I think we're seeing some. I mean, he's consistently up there now. He's got the stuff that he's never had. But man, if they figure it out all the way, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
Jamie, go ahead.
Sorry, Eric. I was just gonna say we joke a lot on our podcast about how Kyle Larson can't close the deal a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
That stat right there, though, is actually really interesting. With 25 career second place finishes, he's been with Hendrick for 14 races now, something like that, 13, 14.
Yep.
You look back at Chip Ganassi Racing, the equipment was significantly less than what he has with Hendrick Motorsports. I think that number changes real quick, and I would not be I would not be surprised to see him rein that in 2021. He just, speaking of reining in, he needs to rein in going so hard, right at the beginning there. And I think that's Kyle's biggest issue is he he doesn't know how to take it easy to a degree.
Yeah,
you know,
it's killed him a couple of times this year.
Yeah, burn up his stuff. But he comes from a sprint car background where you don't take it easy in a sprint car, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
So yeah, definitely an interesting stat.
Yeah,
well, you mentioned Eldora earlier in the podcast, Derek, but I mean that's another example of him pushing it too hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it took him a while to win Eldora because he kept wrecking trucks trying to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, most exciting race I've ever been to, man, was that year. He just kept slamming the wall and going around. It was incredible.
I was sitting in turn 3 when he hit the wall there, and that's the first time I've ever been like right in front of something like that, and literally the ground shook. It was really it was cool though. That was awesome.
Was that the final blow, or was that like the third one out of the 30?
That was like the third out of the 30. So he still had a right side at that point.
Yeah, our seats were in the whenever Eric and I sat in the grandstands, we were at the start finish line up high, and just watching him go around. I mean, we knew it every time. You could see him entering the corner, and for like, oh, he's gonna knock it down again every time. It was, that was a show, man. He is a showman. That's for sure.
James was pulling out the stats in this podcast too. Really on the ball preparing. James had the show notes done yesterday.
I had opportunities, man. Plus we have a special guest coming on. I don't want to let him down.
He's trying to impress. William Byron now has 11 top 10s in a row.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So go down the rest of this, James.
Yeah, so just some quick stats that I had seen was Jeff Gordon. I don't know if this is the record, but I saw that he had 21. This was courtesy of our buddy Bob Pockris, my friend, my personal friend, Bob Pockris. And then, so that was over 2 seasons, 21. And then for William Byron, just to give you an idea of like how much he has like elevated his game, and that 24 team has elevated their game. 2019, 13 total top 10s, 2020, 14 total top 10s. He's going to blow that away. He's looking at 25, maybe 30, if he keeps us up. I don't know if he gets to 21 this year. This road course at Coda is going to be an interesting one. If the streak ends here, regardless, second in points, William Byron, Eric, I think we talked about it last week. But he's arrived. Like he's here now. He's here for sure.
He has. And, I don't think he's in the championship conversation, and he should be. You know, I think everybody's focused on William Byron Kyle Larson and Martin Truex, and I think everybody's forgetting that William Byron's right there, camped out, putting on these good performances, and all he's got to do is sneak one in at Phoenix. Yeah,
he's just super solid. Derek, what do you, I guess rank your Hendrick drivers, Derek. I'll put you on the spot.
As of this year, I'm gonna say the Hendrick drivers ranked are going to be.
It's tough, man.
I'm actually going to go William Byron first.
All right.
Kyle Larson second. Chase Elliott third, and Alex Bowman fourth. If Alex Bowman could.
Bowman's got 2 wins, man.
I don't disagree with him.
I don't either. I don't either at all.
But at the same point, Alex has been so inconsistent. That 48 car has been in a lot of wrecks this year.
Yeah.
And I don't. I weighed the decision on the spot there, putting Alex Bowman third or last. And now Chase doesn't have any wins, but Chase has been more consistent.
Yep.
Even though they can barely get through Tech each week.
That just means they're pushing it, though.
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you're looking ahead for Chase, if you play the game of just looking ahead, these road courses coming up, he's going to be right there. If he doesn't win them, he's going to be right there.
For sure.
Yep.
This is a road course we're going to this weekend. I mean, this is
a legit road course.
Yeah. We're set up for a Chase Elliott victory here this weekend.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in a minute. We'll save this one, Derek, but I know you've got some thoughts on Coda from your experience, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
James put here in the notes, does this race tell us anything about the future of the season? I'm assuming you mean the Hendrick performance, James. Is that what you're thinking?
Hendrick performance 750 package. Did we learn anything here, or is Dover so unique? I know we're only going to Dover once this year. Did we learn anything looking ahead, just based on what we saw Sunday? I like to throw that question out every so often, because I don't know if we're gonna, going into these road courses that we've got coming up, Nashville, things like that.
Well, I was gonna say, I think we learned something about Nashville in a couple of weeks.
Probably, yeah. Get your fantasy lineup set with the Hendrick boys if they're that good on concrete.
Yeah. It's tough to say. I mean, we do this every week, and then the next week everything looks completely different. But yeah, I mean, these Hendrick cars are strong, and it's going to be really hard to bet against them. And like I said, I think, Derek ranked Byron up there first, and I think that's right. But I have a hard time not ranking Larson first, just, based on what he's done. Wasn't even a cup car most of the year last year, and all the things he's done outside of the cup car. I think he's still getting there. I don't think he's at his, prime, what he's going to be this season yet.
Yeah,
I mean, we're 13 races in. He's probably getting pretty close, but pretty close to second place at Dover. I mean, and dominating the race. So, pit stop, a second on a pit stop away from winning that thing. So
I think when Larson does get that reined or dialed in, I guess, completely, and he can figure out how to finish a race, I think he's going to be absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at a 9-win type of season.
Yeah. I think we're going to click off a bunch of Larson wins.
I was going to put it around 6 or 7. So
at this point,
he's same page.
Exactly. Yeah. He's missed a couple of opportunities that could have gotten him to that point. But, I'm looking at his numbers here real quick. He is 8 laps shy of his second best laps led total for an entire season already for his career. So, he's going to blow that mark away. He might lead 2,000 plus laps at this rate, the way he's going. So
freaking Denny Hamlin's going to lose another opportunity at this championship. He's never going to get it, man. There's always somebody better.
And he's been really good this year.
I know
his points lead's no joke. He just doesn't have the wins to show for it. But
he's another one though too, that one win is gonna set off the waterfall.
It could,
what though, with Kyle Larson, if Kyle Larson makes it to the championship, I don't think he finishes the deal.
You're probably right.
Yeah, you're probably right.
If he can't finish races off, I don't think he can finish a championship.
Well, it's about who you trust,
Right.
Well, and it's not only that, but if we were going to Homestead, I'd definitely give him more of an opportunity. But
Phoenix, not so much.
Yeah. So, otherwise, this race was pretty uneventful for the most part. I did note Eric Almirola finishes 37th, last place. I jokingly put in the show notes, is Eric Almirola the reason that Stuart Haas is struggling for lack of cars? I mean, he is obviously not, but man, he destroyed some cars this year, and it's not all his fault. I mean,
he's had bad luck. Just snake bit bad luck. Bad luck happens to every driver at some point. And he's just in that. I think he's just in that stretch right now.
Yeah. And it's an unreal amount of bad luck. I mean, like you said, how many cars has he actually wrecked this year? Yeah. It's been really bad for that 10 team.
And that hit at Dover was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's never an easy
hit. It was. Now, I don't know when Eric Almirola's contract is up with that 10 car. Something that's been in the back of my mind is, will Eric Almirola be coming back to that 10 car when that contract is up?
Yeah. Depends how much Smithfield likes him, because they really like him.
Yeah.
Right. And that was my next point is Smithfield has been in this sport for a long time, and Smithfield has had a very limited amount of success. Mm-hmm. They had a good opportunity to jump on with SHR and hopefully crank off some wins here with Eric Almirola. Yeah. But again, it just has not materialized. I mean, he's won one race, maybe 2 in that Smithfield car for
he's
SHR?
won. Yeah, he's won 1 for Stuart Haas, and then he's got the rain out at Daytona.
So both super speedway races though.
Yep.
And I think Smithfield really took a big chance and said, we're going to go to SHR. We're going to put a lot of funding their way and move to SHR, and nothing has really materialized after the first year of that 10 car.
And SHR needs that sponsorship. Mm-hmm. When you look at that team as a whole, they've got 1 car that's completely not funded. It's completely out of Gene Haas's pocket. And then you've got Chase Briscoe with some Ford money, some Rush Truck Centers money, and a little bit of here and there. But he's on the Gene Haas payroll too. So Stuart Haas can't afford to be a 4-car team with 1 car fully sponsored at the end of the day.
You mentioned Chase Briscoe. I wanted to throw something out here real quick, not to completely take us off on a tangent, but I was listening to Christopher Bell on Sirius this week, and he brought something up that was really interesting. Chase Briscoe did so well in the Xfinity Series last year. I think we expected a lot of big things with him coming to Stuart Haas this year in the Cup Series. Really expected him to do well, and he struggled a bit. But Bell noted that, the days of drivers racing in the Xfinity Series and then coming up and competing right away in the Cup Series. These guys aren't facing Cup drivers every weekend in the Xfinity Series anymore like they used to. They're not facing 8 to 10 Cup drivers every weekend. They're facing, Kyle Busch once in a while and maybe Kevin Harvick once in a while. And, most guys aren't coming down there and running that series anymore. So the gap between the experience at the Xfinity level and the Cup level is so different now than it was just 5-6 years ago. Yeah. That it's making it a lot tougher for these kids to come up after dominating Xfinity Series. Yeah, right. Exactly. Dominating the Xfinity Series and not able to compete as much in the Cup Series. So just an interesting take, I thought.
I do want to mention something on Chase Briscoe. I actually had very low expectations for him moving into the Cup Series this year because the cars are so different.
Right.
And obviously you have the 550 package that we all dread. Eric, I don't know you that well, but based off your earlier comment, you hate it just as much as James and I do.
We're all truthers here.
It took me a while, but I'm there. I'm at the hate.
Right. But I fully expected Chase Briscoe to struggle. Until he got his legs under him for the 750 package. And for the first time this season, I think we saw a little bit of hope at Dover until he unfortunately got up into the wall and wrecked out. But he was running about top 15. It's the best run that 14 car has had all season. Yeah. And you had higher horsepower, low downforce. That tends to play into some of these dirt guys or some of these I guess drivers is what we'll call them, so that are used to a package like that.
And I think for him looking ahead to the road courses, I think he's got to be, optimistic that he can maybe steal one of those as well. I mean, he's definitely a really good road course racer. That I think things might have to fall in line for him, but I think he'll be solid for some of those races. I think he's going to have some good runs there.
Yeah, his starting spot won't be good at COTA this weekend, but
no, it will not.
Through the field.
Yeah, it's going to be a long race.
So
go ahead,
Eric, real quick. I wanted to. I don't want to hang on this too much, but and I know I'm just joining as a guest, but I wanted to put you guys on the spot for a second.
Please do.
Eric,
no problem. We'll edit it out.
What's that?
I said we'll edit it out. No problem.
Like it never happened. So Eric Almirola, we touched on him real quick. Not having the season he wanted. Smithfield, we wonder where they are, where the contract is. If we get to the end of 2021 and Smithfield says, hey, we decide we want to go a different direction, or Eric Almirola says, I don't know how many more hits that I can take like this. You saw the pain that he was in on Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
The dude broke his back, 3 years ago?
Yep.
So regardless, whether it's Eric's decision or Smithfield's decision, and they decide, hey, we don't want to continue this partnership anymore, who do you guys think gets that 10-car ride if it opens up? Yeah, I feel like this is more of a off-the-wall question than what you posed to me.
That's what we do.
That's tough because no matter what Tony Stewart says about his development program, what are we going to put Riley Herbst up there? I mean,
that's right. Yeah,
it's just not feasible right now.
Yeah.
I could throw the driver that we keep throwing everywhere and Brad Keselowski and say, hey, go get him. But that would have to be a decision that has to be made now, not at the end of the season. That's
the only other guy in the Ford pipeline for me, because we know Hendrick's going to the 21. Is DiBenedetto if he's out there, but he doesn't come again. We go back to what we said about Stuart Haas. You can't have underfunded cars and a full stable. And Matt DiBenedetto, unfortunately, is not bringing a ton of sponsorship.
And no offense to Matt D, because I like him, but is he an improvement from Eric Almirola?
Yeah, the Ford pipeline is very thin. Say what you want about. I know Tony had his comments about Toyota and how they've got a pipeline. They've got guys in there. I mean, Eric Jones. Possibly
maybe
could come over, but yeah, it's thin.
Man, that'd be a good get though, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the guy I want him to get in first place. I don't know, Derek. I don't know. If you've listened to anything, you know that I get on the Eric Jones rant every once in a while because that's one of my guys. But I'd love to see him back in a good seat. But again, he's not bringing. How do you replace what Eric Almirola can give you outside of just trying to get some more performance? But you got to have dollars to have performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually going to probably go with you, James. I think Matt DiBenedetto would be a good option for that seat if the Ford camp wants to keep him in.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think Matt does need to improve his performance.
He's got to get better.
His performance has not been up to par this year.
No, he's backslid. He backslid again this year a little bit. But I mean, he's hovering around he just needs to be a little bit better. I mean, he's hovering around the playoff cut line. But it's going to take some more from him.
I've got an interesting option for you guys. We're looking at a lot of teams trying to get into the sport next year, and they've got a car that's not funded except by Gene Haas. What about selling the charter?
That's not a bad idea. I know they're hard. Yeah. They're hard to get. You could lease the charter maybe for a year.
Yeah, maybe.
They are hard.
Boy, that charter conversation is a whole nother conversation that would probably take up a couple hours.
For the record, I hate that conversation because I think the charter system sucks. But
right. Well, and not to go down that road too much, but when you have someone like Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying, "Hey, I maybe want to take my team to Cup, but I don't know if I'll have a spot for my team," that's not good in my opinion. So.
Well, same thing with 2311. They want to spend and they want teams down the road, but where are they going to get the charters? That's tough.
We give Rick Ware Racing a lot of crap, but I hope if they've made all these decisions for business purposes, I hope they're ready to sell off some of those charters and actually put in some competitive race cars.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't need 4-car Rick Ware teams. Exactly. I agree 100%.
That item was not in the notes. Actually, they also had themselves a 4-spot consecutive finish. This
stole mine. I was just going with it. I was chomping at the bit to get it in there.
What do we have?
I told you he'd be a natural fit.
36, 37, 38, 39.
31, 32, 33, 34.
Okay. All right.
Cody Ware, Garrett Smithley, James Davis, and Josh Balicki finished 4 in a row. So
that's impressive.
We buried the lead on that one, man. That should have been the top story right there.
Yeah,
we did.
I think Derek is spying in on our chat because I think that came up. I think that came up on our group chat.
It did. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, man, Derek's fitting right in. He's teeing up the transition, and oh no, he went with it, man. He
hit it out of the park. There it goes.
Yeah, that was his. He went full Kobe in that one. Just took the ball and took it to the rack.
There you go.
I like it. Well
All
done.
right, let's leave the Cup Series. We'll bust through the Xfinity Series here real quick. We won't dwell on it a lot because not a ton to talk about. It's the Dryden 200. Austin Cindric gets the win. Which that was your pick, wasn't it, James?
It was. Yeah, I'm on a heater, man. On the lower series when it comes to our picks.
Man, you're killing me. I
know. I like it.
I think just a couple notes here. JRM again, really good in this race. Justin Allgaier dominates for the most part. 94 laps led, finishes third. But Josh Berry finished second place, close to winning it. 48 laps led, wins the $100,000 in the Dash for Cash. Gets a chance to run in the Cup Series the next day. Just a good weekend for Josh Berry.
Yeah, Josh is. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but man, what a run he's on right now. I don't think he's running next week though, unfortunately. But yeah, he's had he's got that win, and it's just been really cool to see he's kind of burst onto the scene, and I mean he has a shot to win that race if it falls a little bit differently. But Austin Cindric's day, that guy, he's just racking them up.
I think the refreshing thing to see about Josh Berry is I think that's a good story as well. Yep. He's been a big part of Junior's late model team and has continued to chip away at it. And he could look at this as being a little bit timid after this opportunity or for this opportunity because his first opportunity didn't work out. But man, he is racing the wheels off of that car week in and week out. And he's not giving it to anyone. So good for Josh Berry.
Take your opportunities and do the maximum. I mean, that's all you can ask of these guys when they get a seat. It's like Ty Gibbs, similar situation. Like you've been given this great opportunity, go take it. And they've done nothing but impress.
Josh he's an old dude, man. He's 30 years old.
I know he's an old. Yeah. Him and Ty Gibbs are on the opposite end of the spectrum there for sure. But again, Josh has great equipment, and that man can wheel a stock car with the best of them. So he's getting it done with some pretty dang good racers. I mean, AJ Allmendinger, he's running with some pretty, like you said earlier, Eric, there's no Cup guys anymore, but some of these guys are, these guys are really good. They've been around a long time and they know how to do it. And he's right there with them.
Well, you mentioned Ty Gibbs. He won the ARCA race. He's finished 5th in this one. Again, this kid just continues to impress. So good on him. Noah Gragson, I wanted to bring up Gragson because when we left the podcast last week, he'd received the penalty, was DQ'd from the race. They appealed the penalty and had the appeal accepted. So he was able to get his $100,000 back and his second place finishing spot the week before. And there's a new rule in the Xfinity Series this week. Not directly related to, but obviously very directly related to the penalty on Noah Gragson. And so there you go.
NASCAR likes to sweep those in when they get a chance.
And I think with Noah Gragson being reinstated for that Dash for Cash, Junior Motorsports won all 4 Dash for Cash.
That is correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Gragson only missed the last one. So
yeah.
Yep. And then just a note, Justin Haley missed the race due to COVID protocols. NASCAR did grant him a waiver, though, however, so he can still race for the championship.
I think he might be looking at sitting out this week. Last I was reading, but it's not official yet. I don't think he actually ended up with COVID from what I saw as well. I think he had a close contact situation, but I haven't seen anything more on that, but I probably shouldn't do any speculating, but there you go.
Right. Okay. All right, with that, let's talk about some news. We teased it earlier. Brad Keselowski could become the next owner-driver in NASCAR, courtesy of Jim Utter with motorsport.com. Take that how you want to take it.
I have an update to that, actually.
Is there an update?
There is an update.
Yes.
James's good buddy, Bob Pockris.
My friend, yes.
Yes, his good buddy friend, Bob Pockris, tweeted and put on Facebook that it seems to be all but done. That is an all but done deal that Brad Keselowski is going to Roush Fenway Racing.
All right, I believe Bob now. Man, I don't. So Roush Fenway Racing, he'd be taking over the 6 car.
Yep.
And partial ownership of the team, it would be Keselowski.
Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, something like that.
There you go.
Show of hands. Who's blocked by Jim Utter on Twitter?
I haven't been blocked yet.
Yeah, not
I am.
Yet.
You guys can't see who I am, but I am.
That's a great block. Add that to our game, our list there, Eric, of people.
I'm so worried about getting blocked from people because I want to have the information. So I'm careful, but I'm surprised I haven't been blocked by him yet.
Yeah,
I have been in the press box with him though, and try to avoid him.
Well, since we're talking about Twitter blocks, Derek, I don't know if you know this, but I've been blocked by Paul Tracy, famous IndyCar driver.
Yep.
So, I mean,
what'd you do? Did you make a comment about him talking about Danica's feet or something last year?
No, I didn't. Well, I can't see those anymore. So I've been gone for a while. He said some pretty ridiculous things about. Yeah. I can't remember what, but yeah.
I'm sure you don't lose any sleep on it.
No, I don't worry about that one.
Back to Keselowski though. I mean, I think it's pretty shocking. I guess it's an ownership opportunity for him, which
fits right in with him if you think about it. I don't know. I mean, long-term play for Brad.
I guess, but man, it's not a well-performing team unless he's going to bring a Penske relationship or something to it.
I think that car's already associated with Penske, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you think about it, a little bit more too, the next gen car coming,
that's true.
That changes the game a little bit here for Brad. That opens a little bit more opportunity because of a lot of the limitations of the next gen car. To be honest with you, the way that they're building these things, it could open up for him a little bit here.
It was definitely a mind-blowing tweet that I read today. And no matter your thoughts on Jim Utter, I think, which I don't like the guy personally, but he doesn't usually put stuff out there that isn't true.
No, he's usually pretty good about breaking news. His buddy Jerry is not always the greatest at it, but Jim does a pretty good job of breaking news.
Yeah.
So
well, so I couldn't believe it when I saw it that Brad Keselowski is looking into ownership for the Cup Series. My belief is that I don't think he was going to stay with Penske regardless. I mean, he only signed a 1-year deal.
Well. Yep.
I would have pegged him to go to 2311 to help improve that team.
Yep.
For next year. But this is a whole new ball game. Like this is very interesting.
Yeah, James definitely had him going to 2311, but James has had every available driver going as well.
I feel like we're on the same page then.
I just want to note, let me be the first one to say that there's Eric Almirola's replacement, Ryan Newman, to Stuart Haas next.
Maybe going back. There you go. Possibly.
Do we know that he is looking to take over the 6 car? I had not read that.
Yeah, that's what Utter said. It would be the 6 car, and they don't know if it would be a 3-car team or if Ryan Newman would, Ryan Newman may go into retirement or find a job elsewhere.
Yeah, we run into that charter situation again.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's the charter go? And
I think I brought this up earlier, and I'll ask it to you guys, or I'll say it to you guys. Maybe I'll just speak at you. That's what I'll do. So Brad is 37. And according to our good buddy David Smith at Motorsports Analytics, we know a driver's peak is age 39. He is in his driving prime right now. Do you guys think he's throwing away performance for long-term job stability in that instance?
I did until you mentioned the new car.
Yeah, I know.
I still think he is, even with the new car.
You might be right.
Yeah,
you might be right. Here's
the thing, though, is Keselowski has ownership experience. Not that he was super successful in the truck series, because they did struggle. They had good performing trucks, but weren't
good drivers coming through
wins.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the drivers that they brought through are still around, or several of them are anyway. But I mean, you look at Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch was a complete failure in the Xfinity series, but he's killing it in the truck series too. So. I mean, maybe Brad learned some stuff there, and he can bring it into the Cup Series and make something out of it. So
my biggest thing that I was thinking about with Brad possibly making this move is, like you mentioned, his trucks ran pretty good, had a decent amount of wins, but I'm looking at it from a different angle of, I don't believe that they had that good of luck with sponsorship on those trucks.
So. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
So I just, this whole business model with the next gen car is going to have to change dramatically to really welcome new sponsors into the sport, like they say it's going to.
Well, and Brad has his own company now too, which is
he does.
I don't know if it's as profitable as to sponsor a full-time Cup ride, but
how much has Roush struggled with sponsorship in the Cup Series since Fenway's been on board? Are they still? I mean, I
don't think they run sponsorless race cars. They've got funding. I just don't know. They're not getting that Exalta money or FedEx money, for example.
I think as of late they've been. Yeah, I think as of late, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, they've been pretty good. I think for a minute there, that 6 car and 17 ran some Ford EcoBoost schemes and such. But
since Newman's been there, they've had a lot of sponsorship. I mean, they patch it together. I mean, it's a couple races here, a couple races there, but they've got funded cars.
Now, did you guys see that they do have an announcement planned for tomorrow? In terms of the 17 car. So that's why I asked about the 6 car.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be something different there. I don't know. That's what according to the article, that's what Jim said it would be the 6, but
sure.
I mean, we got a long way to go.
Yeah, it was quote a major announcement for the 17 tomorrow. So
interesting. We'll see.
The whole thing is just a really interesting move. So it's going to be intriguing to watch.
Yeah. This is shades of not quite the same thing Tony Stewart had happen, where he was given a team, half of a team.
Yeah, right.
But this is a shrewd move for Brad, and I think for Jack Roush, if you're looking at a succession plan here as well, you bring in Brad, whether you like him or not, one of the smartest guys in the garage, or one of the most well-spoken guys in the garage. So he's tapped in. So if Jack Roush is looking for an exit plan, and maybe his the family's not going to be taking it over, maybe Brad's that kind of guy where he can step in, kind of like Jeff Gordon may do with Rick Hendrick eventually, and so on. So there's a lot of moving parts here.
I think that's something Jack Roush has struggled with for years.
Yep.
At the risk of stretching this out longer, so who goes to the 2 car then?
Matt DiBenedetto.
Could be. Yeah, that's probably DiBenedetto or yeah. I mean, unless Penske just decide. I said when we were talking in group chat earlier, Eric, I thought we could even see Blaney move to the 2 and somebody else take the 12. We've seen Penske do that before because the 2 is their highest profile ride.
And I know we've announced that Cindric's going to the 21, but I think if they get a chance to put Cindric in one of the actual Penske rides that they
That's a
do
good
it.
point.
Yeah,
So,
maybe DeBenedetto
yeah.
stays in the 21. They tell him, hey,
Yeah.
man, this is how it's going to work out. You stay here, and
Wouldn't that be something? DeBenedetto almost loses his ride in the 21 at the start of this year, and basically throws a Hail Mary at the end of last year, and now he may get to stay in the 21. I agree. Hendrick, I think if they decide to do that, Hendrick would move over to Penske instead of Wood Brothers.
I think that's the more logical move to do.
Yeah, I can't imagine them leaving him over at Wood Brothers.
Right.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I think for these drivers, you look long term, and I just don't know if ownership opportunity of this level comes along for all these guys. So for Brad to have something like this come to him, it's got to be hard for him to say no. When you've got a family, when you've got a lifestyle that you're used to, and now he can be a NASCAR owner, and those guys do pretty well. So I think it's a smart move on his part on that sense. I worry about his performance, but this new car, we'll see.
Absolutely.
You guys will be shocked, but Brett Griffin's arguing with people on Twitter.
What? No.
I know, right?
That doesn't happen.
Speaking of burying the lead, like we do all the time, James, big news. You want to hit the big news item?
Yeah, my favorite nemesis is back. Paul Menard running the trucks at Coda. Woo. He's back. I thought I was done with him, but he came roaring back.
It's good to see Paul come back for a race. I know your thoughts on Paul, but I'm good to see him come back, and he's not in the Cup Series, just in the Truck Series.
It'll be fine.
James, now that you mention it, if you have a hat, if you put that on, you might. You kind of the similarities are there.
Yeah, the beard is starting to. Yeah, it's. We've just been, me and Paul have been linked for many years. He just keeps coming back around.
You may have too much personality though, James.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's true.
Yeah. That was definitely a left field move there. I never expected Paul Menard to be making a truck start. Boris said coming back this weekend.
Boris said is coming back. Yep. I thought Boris was like retired, but apparently he's coming back for the Xfinity race, which is
Kevin Harvick driving the 5 car. Like there's just so many weird rides this weekend.
Yeah, those guys want seat time, man. Coda's no joke. So these guys the Cup guys want to get. Austin Dillon's running there's a lot of guys coming down to run, but Paul and Boris, we kind of buried that one. We should have mentioned Boris. The Sed heads will be out in Austin this weekend.
The Paul thing doesn't really make sense though, right? Because he's not getting experience for Cup. The truck is not sponsored by Menards. Like, I wonder how this whole deal came together.
It's probably part of the deal of sponsoring that 88 truck. It's like, give me a ride. I want to run one race.
Well, if they had an extra truck, maybe Paul wants to run. Yeah. It's been a year and a half since he's been in that car. So
we'll watch him go out and win this.
Right.
Man, if he did,
James's worst nightmare again.
Eric would come on this podcast next week and he would be all over me.
I'm picking him for the truck race, man.
Well, he gets points, so you could.
KFB. Hold on, I had a different soundboard this week.
KFB.
There we go.
KFB.
Joey Logano starting another feud here, James.
Yeah, what's the podcast? I'm sorry, it was I don't have it here.
I am athlete, right?
There you go. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know we brought him in for a reason. Perfect. So he called Joey Logano.
Well, hold on. I was actually thinking, I'm like, man, these guys are prepared. I'm like, look, these guys do this every week. Like I gotta hire them to do this.
And then you get to see how it's made. And then it's not as pretty as it looks. But Kyle calling Joey Logano a two-faced driver is pretty hysterical. Like Kyle has taken the opportunity yet again to come at Joey Logano, and then Joey on Twitter was like, "What did he say? That's cute." And so my favorite feud in the Cup Garage, Joey and Kyle.
It's there's no payoff because everybody hates both of them.
It's true.
You got to have a good guy and a bad guy. The two bad guys can't fight. I mean,
Derek, Eric and I had this conversation earlier. Who do you got in a fight, Kyle or Joey?
Kyle for sure.
Oh man, I said Joey.
I've stood next to both of them, and Joey's scrawny. Kyle's beefier than you think.
Kyle's a big dude.
But Kyle looks scrawny because he's super tall.
Right.
Here's my reasoning for picking Joey. Joey continues to look for fists in his career, while Kyle, I feel like, runs from the fist. But
Joey looks for him coming at his face. Whereas Kyle was the one throwing the punch at Vegas a few years ago. So I don't know.
Do you think Joey Logano's like the the scrawny spaz kid that just like goes off and he just starts going crazy. And
well, that's why that's why I said to Eric earlier today it said either way, if these two fight, it's a slap fight. So,
right. Right.
It's a John West Townley tumbling down the banking situation, whatever that was.
We got one throwing M&Ms at the other, and we got Shell Pennzoil flying across,
and Coca-Cola in there somewhere.
Yeah. And then I feel like the odd man out because I like both of them, but I'm all right with it. I want to see.
I love the way they both drive.
I want the feud.
They're just they're just weird dudes, man.
I'm actually going to agree with Kyle Busch on his statement. I had not seen this until you guys put it into the notes. I saw the video, but the article, or I'm sorry, the interview is like an hour long, and so I didn't get a chance to watch it. Kyle Busch calling Joey Logano two-faced. I think. I don't know. I think that could be said for a lot of drivers, don't you? Where you may be one person outside of the car, but when you get into the car, you strap in, you're going to be on your game, and you're going to be, maybe a little different than you would be outside the car, right? So I don't necessarily think that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Kyle Busch isn't the first one to call Joey Logano two-faced either.
Right.
Yeah, short track racing.
I mean, so
you guys already got us beat with sound bites.
I don't get to use them very often, but I put special effort into getting them to work with our setup here tonight. So I'm making sure to use them.
It's all about the efforts, right?
Yeah. Now I saw Kyle Busch mention in that article, I just kind of looked at the link that you guys had posted, and he mentioned that he was an asshole. That Kyle Busch said he himself was an asshole, right?
Yes.
I think the same could be said for Kyle Busch. I've heard that off the track, he's a hell of a nice guy. I've met him too, and he's a very personable guy. He signed autographs. It was actually at Berlin. He signed autographs. He took the time. But when he's on the racetrack, he said he hates losing more than he likes winning. So I don't think it's fair for Kyle Busch to call Joey Logano two-faced when it's essentially the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. And honestly, like the most famous examples of that are Dale Earnhardt, like infamously a super nice guy. After he died, we found out all these things about all he did. Tony Stewart's the same way. You think he's a complete jerk, and you look at some of the things he's done with some of the charities and things that he supports too. So I think you're right there. I think that's actually a good observation, which you don't usually get around these parts.
Here's the thing. Yeah. Right. Here's
breaking
the thing
news.
With these, right. Here's the thing with these two too, is like, they're both heels, but Joey embraces it. Joey goes on the radio with his behind the wheel or whatever every week on Sirius, and he embraces it. He embraces the fact that people don't like him. Kyle, as much as he tries to embrace it, as much as he does the bow to get under people's skin and does the crying eyes at Chicagoland when he wins, it bugs him. It bugs him that people aren't cheering for him and don't love him. Yeah. And that's the difference there between those two, is that I wish Kyle would embrace the heel as well. Just embrace it. Be the bad guy.
It's part of who he is. I mean, you say KFB, KFB is literally just a statement that he said, but he could really embrace that and really run with that. I mean, he has the mantra, he has the attitude to actually fully embrace KFB.
I think that's the thing that's keeping Kyle from the greatness that he needs, is that he won't embrace it. And I think if he was to embrace it, he'd get a lot of hate for a little while, and I think people would turn. I think you'd have the next Darrell Waltrip. Suddenly everybody would love Kyle Busch, but because he's wishy-washy, because he's in the middle here, it just makes people uncomfortable. They don't like it.
Sorry, go ahead, James.
No, I was just going to say, I think eventually he's going to make the turn. I mean, we didn't like Jimmy Johnson for how many years, but that was, for dominance reasons. And that's part of Kyle's thing too, but Kyle will eventually make the turn.
He will.
It's just going to come really late for him.
Well, and Samantha's helped him a ton. I mean, he's gained a lot more fans with Samantha.
Oh yeah. She's
stuff
definitely
that they've gone through and everything.
Yeah. She's definitely softened him up a little bit. You were going to say something, Derek. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just think, I'm personally a fan of Kyle Busch. I haven't always been, same with Jimmy Johnson. But I think as you get older, you realize who these people are, and they're good for the sport. They're good for the storylines. Their personalities are good to have. You don't want the quote unquote vanilla drivers that you have. A lot of the time. Clark and I had this conversation last night on our podcast about Noah Gragson. I'm not necessarily a Noah Gragson fan.
Yep.
But do I think he's good for the sport? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I think he can fill Kyle Busch's shoes when Kyle Busch decides to hang it up.
Oh,
I mean,
he's got that.
it's the same type of person, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about that here too. It's you've got to be yourself, whether people like you or not.
For sure.
You'll go farther when you are who you are.
100%.
Yeah, when people try to not be themselves, you get Denny Hamlin for the last couple of years, and now Denny's back.
And now, he's unloading, which has been great. Yeah, it's fun to watch that.
Off topic, but did you guys see his comment about Texas Motor Speedway?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yep.
Spot on.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin on Twitter is my new favorite driver to follow. That's for sure.
Agreed.
We'll gloss over this really quick, but a really interesting article. If you guys aren't familiar with building speed, they do some really good stuff. A lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of statistics and data and all that stuff. If you enjoy data, they process a ton of it. They had an article this week about our caution lengths increasing, and then a bunch of other caution stats as well, and just kind of running down this thing. So they basically determined that no caution lengths aren't increasing. They've been actually going down somewhat, but they've got debris cautions in here. Do caution lengths increase within a race? Just all kinds of really interesting stuff. And we're talking from 1980 to current day. It's pretty neat. So links in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the links there, and it's worth a look at if you're interested in all the data behind everything. So
it sure seems like they take a long time.
Yeah, I started to read it and unfortunately couldn't finish it. Someone needed ground beef. I work in the restaurant industry, so I had to jump on my computer here, throw a little work at the end of the schedule.
You got to sling that ground beef, man.
Exactly. Selling green beans. That's what we say we do.
That's right.
Last news item, unless something popped up while we're on here.
I don't see nothing. I think we're in the clear.
NASCAR no longer requiring masks outside at events. I think this is kind of par for the course across the country. We're kind of realizing that outdoors is all right. I did see some stuff recently from some reputable people here locally about just statistics and whatnot of how protected we are if we're vaccinated, and not only from catching the virus ourselves, but from spreading it to others as well. So it's good to see some things opening back up, getting back to normal. We're gonna have full stands open at Charlotte for the 600. Whether they can sell all those tickets or not before that race, that's another story. But we've seen full baseball events. We've seen some full stadiums. Maybe it's a little early, but I think numbers are going down and everything, and it's just good to see that. Maybe normalcy is on its way.
I'll take advantage of our outdoor sport and get out. I mean, Derek, you've been to a race this year that was socially distanced.
Right.
I mean, how comfortable were you during that? I mean, how was it? I mean, just because Eric and I haven't been to the track,
right?
Sure.
In quite a bit. Eric has.
Yeah, I went to Michigan last year, but sat 6 feet away from everybody in the press box, and that was it.
Sure. Talladega, the Speedway did everything they could. But in terms of social distancing, it was not great. I felt fine because I was about through my second shot. I was a week past my second shot being vaccinated.
Perfect.
I felt pretty good being there. And I actually felt like a renewed sense to get out and do stuff, because I talked to the person that I work with to get NASCAR tickets. And I told him straight up, I'm like, I'm kind of hesitant to buy tickets for later in the year. You just don't know what's going to happen. Right. And going to Talladega, it felt like, okay, this is normal. This feels good. Let me get out and buy some more tickets. And, The crowd was good. I mean, people were respectful of the current situation, I think, but there was a lot of people there. And social distancing was about 3 feet, I would say, as opposed to 6.
Yeah.
But that is in line with what the CDC had changed to recently with that. So
I think part of mine is just the anxiety still of going back to normal, more so than any danger of it.
Yep.
We've had mask mandates lifted here in Michigan with, if you're vaccinated, and I've been cautious, but trying to enjoy it a little bit. And, I just remind myself that, hey, this is what I did all this for. This is what I spent a year indoors for. This is what I stayed away from family and everything for, got the vaccine for, is to be able to go back to normal. So
it really is a transition. And I know you have to kind of be careful, like going down this road, because obviously people have different thoughts, but, when you go in somewhere and you see people not wearing masks, which is becoming more and more common. I mean, whether it's Meijer or Starbucks or a local restaurant, it is kind of a shock, because we haven't been here in a year and a half. I actually have a wedding for the first time since 2019 this weekend.
Yeah.
And Eric, like you said, you're like, boy, is this right? And then at some point you're like, okay, yep, I'm vaccinated. This is what we did for.
Yep.
Okay, time to get back out there. Like it is a weird feeling though. It's something we've never been through.
I was in a parent meeting for hockey last night, and there were about 20 people in the room, and everybody was spaced out, but I think one person had a mask on, and it was just so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there again. I told my wife the same thing. It's like when I went to the grocery store at the beginning of this, and I felt so weird putting this thing on my face. And now it's the opposite. It's like, we went to the restaurant for the first time tonight, actually sat down, and it was just so strange. But like you guys said, I'll third that. That's what we did it for. We want to be able to start doing these things and enjoying these things. So
for sure.
Get to it. I want to get back to racing. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Me too. I am happy to say I booked tickets for Talladega in the fall already.
Yes.
We had such a good time. Oh, and I was actually going to mention, Eric, I think you brought up Charlotte Motor Speedway being full capacity here in about a week and a half. Have you guys ever seen the Airbnb in one of the condos above Charlotte?
Yeah.
There's a TikTok account I follow that the guy owns one of them. I would kill to live in one of those things.
What's his name? Trying to think of his name. Anyways, it's similar. Christian, right?
Yes, Christian Espinoza.
Christian.
There you go. Yes. Yep.
It's not his, but there is an Airbnb online that is like brand spanking new. And I got on there and I looked and I'm like, $232 a night. That is awesome. That's an awesome price. Like, okay, I can do that. We get a group together. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's available for race weekend. Like, I want to get someone together. I mean, we can all split this. And little did I know, or little did I pay attention, when I clicked the dates for October race weekend, it jumped to $2,150 a night.
Yeah.
with a 2-night minimum stay. I got really excited, but man, it's like that's a bucket list. We talked about bucket list earlier in the show, and I would love to do that. That'd be so cool.
I've always dreamed of living at a racetrack.
Yes.
So
Christian Espinosa is living that dream. He's there every day.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
That'd be amazing to wake up in the morning and see that out your front window.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Heck yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Speaking of back to racing, guys, we're going road racing this weekend. We go to Circuit of the Americas in Austin. First time ever with the Cup Series. I don't know about you guys, but I love this track. Big fan of it in the Formula One. I've raced a lot of laps on it in the Formula One games on PS4, and I'm excited to see Cup cars on this track. I'm glad that NASCAR didn't dumb it down. We're going to run the full circuit. I'll be really curious to see what they do with turtles and stuff in corners to keep people from using the runoff, because there's a lot of runoff here. You could just straighten out every turn. But excited, looking forward to some real road racing in NASCAR.
Yeah. It's they got the iRacing series, the Pro Invitational's going on right now. So if you're
Pro Invitational's tomorrow. Tonight is the actual.
That's right.
The
actual
iRacing.
You're trying to get us through the week quicker. I
bunched up. I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yes.
I know. I made sure that we could schedule a podcast so I could still watch the Pro Invitational.
The Pro Invitational series. Yes.
This is one I will turn on. So.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I'm super excited for COTA. I don't really know that much about COTA, but I sat and did a little like research video yesterday. It was from Colton Herta in the IndyCar series, and I did not realize how massive this place is. Almost 3.5 miles, 20 turns in like 150 feet of elevation.
Yeah, that front straightaway is daunting. Yeah. It's like you're looking down from a mountain.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but the
racetrack standards.
The front stretch to the back stretch, if you just go straight across, it's like 2 miles. I mean,
right.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's huge. There was a video. I watched a video yesterday. Kyle Busch. It was must have been a Toyota fan thing that he was taking somebody around in one of the Toyota Tundra or Toyota Camry cars. That was pretty neat too, just to see kind of, there's a lot of unknowns. The S's coming out of turn one are very blind and difficult. It's just not a traditional NASCAR track. It's going to be really different for these guys. I think you're going to see the road course guys excel, which you'd expect anyway. But I think we're going to see some interesting stuff. There's some great passing zones here. Longer straightaways than we have at most tracks. So,
yep.
Like I said, I think, if we were running practice and stuff, we might run the risk of sticking a chicane in or something, but, maybe we'll get through the weekend and not do that. So,
yeah.
With that, we get to make our picks this week. Derek, we're going to have you make picks with us as well. James, I don't know how you want to do it. If I think
Derek
Derek can pick whatever he wants to pick.
Eric and I have rules that we're trying to follow for our picks each week, but you go ahead and pick anybody you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we'll recap from last week. First of all, James, you smoked me again. Let's see, 96-46 was the points. So James continues to lead. He is
blame me, man. You picked Martin Truex Jr. I did not expect that out of him.
No kidding, man. That was really disappointing. 1,126 James has to my 1,045. So I got to play some catching up this week, but that means I get to pick first. So we start with the truck series here, the Toyota Tundra 225, Saturday doubleheader with the Xfinity and trucks, by the way. And I am going to go, I screwed myself over on the trucks, James, because I should have picked Ben Rhodes because he's the guy at the road courses after Daytona this year, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I picked him last, so I can't pick him.
I was licking my chops a little bit when, So
I will have to leave Ben Rhodes for you, and I am going to go with the guy who finished second at Daytona, who won at Daytona last year, and go with Sheldon Creed as my pick for the winner on this one.
Yep, and I went Sheldon Creed last truck race, so yep. I can't use him, but I knew that you picked Ben Rhodes during Darlington, so. That gives me Ben Rhodes because I definitely want that one. So but Sheldon Creed though, I mean he's I feel like he's good everywhere. So
he really is. Yeah. He really is. And Sheldon Creed's got the off-road trucks background as well. So
yep.
I'm trying to think. Have the Stadium Super Trucks run at COTA maybe with the IndyCar series?
I don't know.
Maybe he's got experience on this track.
I know.
In a truck.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
Derek, who do you got for this one?
I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek.
Nice.
He has a little road course win experience there. So I think it was up in Canada, Canadian Tire Motorsports.
Yes,
I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek. He's been pretty dominant this year in that Kyle Busch Motorsports truck as well.
Excellent. So
that's a really good pick.
We'll see if Derek can beat us this coming week. And so we're off to a good start.
There you go. Xfinity Series again, Saturday afternoon. Pit Boss 250. I also screwed myself over on this one, James, because I think, hold on, maybe I didn't. No, this isn't the one. Cup I screwed myself over on. I'm just gonna go with Austin Cindric. You can't pick him this week, and I'm just going that direction. So yeah. I'm gonna play that card this week and take Austin.
Well, you left me an opening here. I'm gonna go AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just
that seems like a solid pick.
Yeah, if you're going road course racing, I'll take AJ. But
is Ty Gibbs running this race?
You know what? I had the entry list. Hold on. I don't think he is.
Kyle Busch is
that's
in
right.
54 car.
Kyle Busch is right. Yeah, he's running the Skittles car. Yeah. So what we do, Derek, is we have to pick guys who earn points. So we can't.
Well, we don't have to.
For sure.
Well, yeah, that's right.
We earn the points that they earn. So if they don't earn points, we don't get points for them if they win.
So in Eric's defense, I probably, whenever Austin Cindric's available to me, it's almost a lot that I'm going to take him. But another road course, AJ, I like AJ.
Another good opportunity is Noah Gragson. He's run well on the road course at Daytona, despite making his errors that he has. And I don't have that sound clip on my soundboard, so I can't play that one. But yeah, so that's another good pick as well. And the way he's been running, Justin Allgaier is a good pick here. I mean, there's some good picks in the Xfinity series. Derek, who do you got for this one?
Well, Austin Cindric was my first pick as well. But I actually think Daniel Hemrick's going to get his first Xfinity win this weekend.
Nice.
Yep.
I keep picking him, man. I've picked him so many times this season.
Yeah.
He just
Eric wants it bad. Yeah, we like Daniel.
It was actually between Daniel Hemrick and Andy Lally. I think Andy Lally
That's
has a
one
good
too,
shot
yeah.
this weekend.
Yeah,
Ran pretty strong at the Roval last year. So
yeah, Andy Lally can run road courses. So
for sure.
Yeah, that's really, I didn't even think about that one. That's a sneaky one.
And there's a lot of finesse in Coda. We talked a little bit about it here a few minutes ago, but Eric, I was telling James, I kind of ran this on iRacing this past weekend too, and it's super challenging. You said you mentioned, or you ran on F1 too. I can't believe how long the straightaways are and how tight the corners are. Just the speed difference is insane.
Yeah, both turn one and then the turn way in the back, they're super, super tight, way tighter than turns we normally run.
Big time braking zones. Yeah.
Yep. And I would assume, I've never run a game with a stock car on Coda, but I would assume that the rear end would get pretty light through the S's too, because there's not a whole lot to them. It's kind of, it's interesting. So
I wish I knew, but I never made it to the S's. I never made it to the S's in full speed.
Nice.
Hard to get past turns 1 and 2 and 3 maybe. So
didn't Ryan Sieg run really well at Daytona in the Xfinity Series too? I feel like
I don't have that pulled up. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't take Boris Said. I thought he would have made a.
If he wasn't in that MBM motorsports car, then I probably would have picked Boris.
I think the days of Boris Said running up front are kind of over.
Yeah, I think. Well, if he was in a Gibbs car, maybe, I don't know, but
even then, I still wouldn't pick him.
Yeah.
With that Sunday Cup Series, Echo Park, Texas Grand Prix. So weird to have a race in the Cup Series called a Grand Prix, but that's what we got this weekend. And this is the one that I screwed myself over on because I picked Martin Truex Jr. last week, James, and I think he's a great pick for this one. But I'm going to take the better pick anyway and go with Chase Elliott as my pick for this one.
Yeah, I like that one. I was hoping, I wasn't sure what you were going to do there. I'll throw,
pick somebody crappy so I can gain some points on you, man.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something just a little different here. And we're flying blind. So normally when we do our picks, we've got stats that we can look at from previous races and all this.
See, I pulled Daytona this time. I figured that's my best shot at this.
So there's a guy, not typically known as a road course racer, but he gave Daytona a hell of a run.
I know who you're going with.
I'm going to say Kyle Larson here.
Yep. I knew you were going that way. That's a really good pick, actually.
He was super good at Daytona. He got fresh tires late, made a run. I don't know if he'll win, but I feel good about his speed everywhere. So we'll see.
He was one mistake away from being really, really having a shot at Daytona. So
so I may regret that one. Letting Martin get away from me there might be a pretty big mistake, but we'll see.
Derek, who do you got on this one?
Yeah, I had a backup pick ready because I figured you were going to go with Truex. But with that being said,
you want, man. Anybody you want.
I'm going with Truex.
All right.
Because I thought you were going to pick him, I was either going to go with Hamlin or Ryan Blaney. But
Hamlin would have been good. Yeah.
Blaney's also a good one.
Yep.
So was Kyle Busch, despite the fact that Kyle struggled at Daytona.
Yep.
He's a good road racer, and this might be a perfect track for him.
And Martin Truex Jr. was one of those guys who tire tested here, which I don't think we can. I know guys are going to get practice time, so we're actually going to be able to see some who's actually good before the race,
right?
Or who's got some speed, I should say. But yeah, it's got to be a little bit of an advantage, kind of knowing those braking zones a little bit in advance.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Eric, I appreciate that Chase Elliott pick. But even on our podcast last night, so Clark got to pick first. We have our own set of rules as well. Clark got to pick first. He went with Chase Elliott. I can't say that I would have went with Chase Elliott, actually, even if I went first. I just think at some point, even being a Chase fan, that luck has not luck.
Oh, yeah.
That has to run out.
Something's
going to break.
Catch him.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I actually picked Truex in last night's picks as well. So, Truex has been pretty close. He's been second a couple times behind Chase Elliott. So
yeah, he's going to be right there
for sure.
He's just going to be solid. The thing with Martin, he's not going to make a mistake. He's just one of the smoothest guys out there every single week. So and if this field spreads out at this track, there's going to be no stopping. If he gets out front, he's going to be tough to pass.
For sure.
And that's another one that's worth mentioning too. We mentioned earlier is Chase Briscoe, a great road racer, could have an opportunity here.
Yep.
James, like you said, I mean, this is a big track. It's a long track. So spreading out is pretty likely it's going to happen.
Yep.
Did hear a little tip through the grapevine. I don't know how official it is, but I'll mention it anyway, that there's a rumor that we'll have local cautions in this race too. I don't know what that will mean exactly.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that. This place is big, man. We can't.
Yeah. Yep, and then going out to Elkhart Lake later in the season too. I really
Yep.
hope that this local caution thing is a thing we do. We don't necessarily need it at Watkins Glen or Sonoma, but we could really
even
use it
there.
at these big tracks.
Oh
Yeah.
man, sometimes when we get cautions at those road courses anywhere, it's tough.
It'll take 10 minutes to get around Coda under caution.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah, it'll
One
be
lap
awful.
will do. Yeah, one lap will
Yeah.
do. But oh man,
Yep. Fantasy League update, James. You want to run through that real quick? I remember I did pretty well in this one. I think.
Dang it, you did. You almost won. But our buddy Todd, he gets the
Yeah.
win this week at Dover. Eric, you're right behind him, 230. And then our guy we shouted out last week, Justin, he goes and gets another top 3 finish. So he gets the podium. I screwed up bad and finished 13th. So as good as I'm doing on our picks here against you, Fantasy League keeps getting the best of me. And then overall standings, Rangers first. Eric, you crept up on him a little bit. You're still over 100 points back, but you are second. And then Fast to the Grass is third. So I'm landlocked in 5th. So
I lucked out this weekend because I watched the race delayed, and so I wasn't going to be able to switch out at the end of stage 2. But Kyle Busch struggled so early that I was able to quick bench him and before the stage was done, and I was good.
Yeah,
so.
I tried to save some starts and went with the Benedetto and Chris Bell a combo, and boy, that really bit me.
I gave up on saving starts on this one, except that somehow I didn't put Denny Hamlin in, and I thought I did. There was a point in this race, James, where I had all 5 of my drivers as the top 5.
That's fantastic.
It was ridiculous.
You were killing it, and then Todd, that sneaky Todd, came and got it again. So
freaking picked Alex Bowman. Like, come on.
Right. Right.
Shout outs this week. I don't have any. I'm going to pass on that. James, you got any shout outs?
No, I think we're good with our special guest though. But Derek, do you have a shout out? Anybody you wanted to shout out?
Well, hey, I just want to shout out to you guys for having me. It's been
Perfect.
a great time.
Well, there you go.
So
we appreciate it.
That's yeah,
perfect. Easy.
Been a lot of fun.
I know, put him on the spot from time to time, but that's good.
Yeah.
Gotta do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Derek, where can they find you again if they wanna check out your show and learn more about you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter with the handle @InTheFansLane, and then also on Instagram, Life in the Fans Lane. We try to keep up on that pretty regularly, and then of course our podcast is available on all major podcasts on a weekly basis.
Nice.
Boom.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us this week.
Master of the promo. I like it.
Right.
That was efficiently well done.
Yeah, I think better than us.
For
so
sure.
Now let's see how the amateurs do it.
Yeah,
James,
we'll bubble through it.
where can they find you on social media if they want to hit you up, James?
Yeah, you can get me at James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at T Super Speedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find links to old episodes of the podcast, show notes, links to articles we've discussed, past race coverage, photos, all that stuff. Good stuff is there. Check that out, thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast there as well. And you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all those places. For some reason, they don't update right away now, which is really irritating. So when you guys, we upload on Tuesdays a lot of times. You'll see it the next morning, if not. And maybe, just maybe, we might experiment with some video next week. We're trying some stuff out tonight, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. We are approaching episode 200.
Yeah.
And there's been talk that we might try to do something about that, but
Yes.
who knows?
Yes.
We will give up eventually.
The way we're doing it now might lead us to maybe something special for episode 200. So we'll see how this goes tonight. If you guys are listening to this right now, it means it worked. And we didn't lose an entire podcast that we brought a special guest on.
Oh, that would be, oh my God.
All right, so we go to Circuit of the Americas this weekend, a race I think we've all been looking forward to for a while. All 3 series in action. It is Truck Series and Xfinity Series on Saturday, Cup Series on Sunday. We'll be back next week here on the podcast to break it all down, discuss it all with you, and head on to the next weekend. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.